Welcome to the newest episode of our podcast series introducing our newest Showbox Sires bulls for our lineup. This bull will be available exclusively through your Select Sires and Worldwide Sires representatives and distributors. We're excited to release the new bull 744H018394 Enrich-P, an interesting polled bull that's high tight and comes from one of the greatest cow families North America has seen in the past 3 decades. A family that doesn't have a lot of bulls in AI. And one reason Mike and I got going with Showbox is because we thought we were missing genetics from cow families just like the one that Enrich comes from. So today on our podcast, we have Mike Duckett, of course, my partner in Showbox Sires, and a distinguished guest who is really the guy that put the whole thing behind Elegance together. One of the partners to building the Elegance brand is Joel Kietzman from Wisconsin. Welcome to our podcast, Joel.
Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. You and Mike, appreciate the opportunity.
We'll start out with a little bit of humor because we had your good friend Eddie Bew on a couple weeks ago, Joel, and he did a great job talking about his bull Siri. But he said that he had just gotten back from ice fishing, and he gave us a score of who caught the most fish. Would you like to give us any update on who's ahead in the ice fishing deal?
Yeah, no, because whenever me and Eddie go together, neither one of us catch. So we'd be vegetarians if it was, but we seem to do okay when we're not with each other. So yeah.
Well, Mike, if he would have given us any other answer, you'd have known he was lying, right? That's the one thing we could be sure of.
Eddie was talking more confident than you, Keats, just so you know.
That must have been that good day he had.
That's right. Well, Mike is officially not ice fishing today. He's on a little vacation, so thanks for joining us. Mike, any ice fishing where you are today?
No, she's nice and warm here in Florida. We come for a little week away, and the sun's bright, so it's good to get away from. We had 0 and 30 inches of snow when we left.
Well, good. Well, let's get to work so you guys can get to NCAA basketball. First of all, so Joel, I said you were one of the partners that got the Elegance thing going. We're going to spend some time talking about Elegance and the pedigree behind Enrich, because as I said, there's not many bulls in AI that go back to this family, unfortunately. Tell us the whole Elegance story, how it started, and a little of the history of Elegance.
It was a long time ago, 30 years ago. I was out doing a little roading, as our friend Michael Heath would say. And it was, early spring or something. And I stopped in by Brian and Cindy Krall's and was walking through the barn. Looked down, there's this nice 2-year-old there, had her legs, they were ready to get out on grass. And then looked up at the sign and, that's quite a unique pedigree stack there. And so we looked at the cows and they were doing some chores, and then we had a nice visit and talked about her a little bit. And they had said that she was doing the fall and, probably weren't looking, to do anything with her. And at that point, she didn't strike me like, oh, we got to get her, like she'll show. The sire stack, I thought she could make some nice calves. Like I said, she was due end of September. And they kind of wanted to have her fresh, and they got enough tours coming through the farm that they kind of wanted to see what they could do with her. And so we didn't really do anything more. We got reports that she calved in nice. We got done with Expo. Me and Tom headed down over there, stopped to see them, and it was like a picture. They were out on pasture. She was walking across right on the crest of the hill as we got through the gates and headed up towards the cows. And just as, long as a train, black, silky. We kind of looked at each other and we were kind of thinking the same thing. So it took a little negotiating over the next week or two, but we ended up getting her bought.
And so that cow actually, just for the pedigree, was Krall Broker Elegance, which
yes.
would be I can't even tell you how many dams back. We'll talk about that in a minute. And also, Joel, you referenced Tom. That's Tom Cole from Bud John.
Yes. Sorry.
It was the two of you that bought the cow together, Joel?
Yeah, and John and Mary. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 of you own the cow, and so you did get her bought, obviously. What happened after that?
She had, like I said, calved in the fall. They took her to Louisville, I believe, and then we took possession after that, if I'm remembering it right. And then we had a year off, made a bunch of babies, and then calved her back in, and we showed her from then on.
Was this at the start of IVF, or were you still conventional flushing?
Oh, conventional, and she did really well for us.
And the cow went on to be 96 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And won a lot of championships for you.
Yeah, she was always in the top handful, won a few times. Yeah, always did very well, and her daughters and granddaughters filled the show string right behind her.
Well, that's when I remember getting to know you guys a bit, was when all her daughters were coming onto the scene. Mike, I would say you probably got some recollection of that. Do you remember your first elegance daughters that you saw?
I remember when I moved to Wisconsin, my first trip to the state show, that's all you seen was elegance daughters. And it was pretty hard to compete with them because every year they had a whole string full of daughters and granddaughters that were pretty dominant, and you couldn't beat them. And I guess that's what started me really when we started Showbox. Is I wanted something from this cow family because I don't know there's ever been a cow family. One would just get to the end of her career and a daughter or a granddaughter would take off. And they just kept coming year after year. So that, for me, that was impressive. And when I got the opportunity to buy Erica, it was a no-brainer.
Back to you, Keats. So we've talked about elegance and her success, but her success in the show ring was great, but nothing compared to what her success was as a brood cow. Tell us a little bit about a few of your favorite daughters from the cow.
Well, it's well recorded that the Encore cross was what she loved. And you would think with her pedigree, sire stack, like we should have been going dairy. But the strength bulls are what she liked. I wasn't going to quote numbers here because I don't want to get it wrong, but was there 3 or 4 of those Encores that were 95 points, and numerous others that were excellent went on to breed, were filling show strings themselves. And then the Lynn Jets, obviously, they did pretty well too with Eileen and Evelyn
and Mike and I say it all the time. Sometimes the greatness of a cow family or a bull is the crosses that work. And maybe Broker Elegance Encore wasn't on paper, wasn't how you designed the play to win the game.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
For some reason that cross clicked, and then it just bred. And you think about it, at that day and age, frames, dairiness, and will to milk were characteristics that we really wanted and used in our cows, and nothing better for that, right?
Yeah. And those cows they were fun to work with because they just wanted to eat. It was never a fight to get a fill on them.
The greatest trait for you that elegance or self had when you looked at the cow, what you described her up on the ridge a little bit, what would you say 2 or 3 of the best things about the old cow were herself?
I would still say that length of body, depth of chest and through the rib, just their will to do what they're supposed to do. They were fun to work with, easy to work with. Made us look smart.
And Mike, how many interviews do we do on our new bulls where we talk about a great cow and they say the same thing Keats said, that they're easy to work with? Think about all the ones we've done and your own career. Would that be right?
It certainly makes a cow family like this your favorite when you work with them and they don't make a lot of mistakes. Like cows that they eat, they milk, and in this case, they make embryos. And because they pass genetics and give you the opportunity to make money, that's what's so impressive about elegance is, that cow made Bud John J.K. a lot of money, but every person that bought into the family made money too, because there was cows that went to farms in Tennessee that those guys flushed them and they sold beautiful calves. And those kind of cow families are easy to love because they just do it generation after generation.
Well, and Keith, you mentioned, so we go from elegance to, we talked about the Encores. You referenced Eileen. Tell us a little bit about Eileen. I think she was unanimous All-American as a 5-year-old, maybe reserve All-American as an age cow, but one of those cows that got better every year.
Yeah. She was a show ring favorite for a lot of people. Yeah, just the width of rump. She was special.
And she is one of the anchors in this pedigree as well. But then you go to Storm Emily, and Keats, I'll tell my version of Storm Emily. I saw her at Bud John when she was about a 2-year-old, And I truly thought she was one of the greatest young cows I'd ever laid my eyes on. She was the epitome of that beautiful style and dariness Storm could create, and the power and the wit that Eileen created.
Yeah.
You remember that cow? Am I
Oh,
telling her
very
about?
well. I believe she was she second for us at Madison there with a capped hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you lost the cow too early in life. I mean, I think
Yes.
she was 92 as a 4-year-old, maybe, and never had
Yeah.
the chance to go on. And then from her comes the Dundee, which again, talking about great mating. Storm and Dundee, they did work well together.
Yes.
A little about Adair.
Yeah, so Adair, she reminded me a lot of Eileen. Wasn't a small cow, but she wasn't the huge cow anymore, and just tremendous balance. And she was one of our favorites for sure.
You know, to take the pedigree one more step, you know, Adair was nominated as junior 3-year-old, both sides of the border. She was nominated as a 4-year-old, went on to be 95 with a lot of production. But Mike, then what really happened is they bred her to Gold Ship. The Ellen cow is kind of where you start with this pedigree, right, Mike?
Yeah, because she went through one of your sales, I believe, Tim, Nashville, and the people that bought her sold lots of high dollar calves from her, and then sold a really good cow that would be the mother of Erica, a cow that was, I think she was reserved intermediate champion or maybe intermediate champion at the Ontario Summer Show. Elegance family done great for the people that got it there, but everybody it touches it seems to do well.
And so to take us fast forward, it's been a great walk down memory lane with all those great cows. You know, Keats, I don't know that there has been, quote, show cow in the business without generating dollars in AI that's made any more money in the breeding economy when you think about her. Would you, I'm not saying you've got it all. I know you've got most of the pennies you ever collected, but would you, I mean, wouldn't that be a true statement? This is one of the branches.
Yeah, yeah. And because of her prolific embryo production, it was tremendous. And when she did slow down on that, the IVF was starting up, to go with that on the daughters. So yeah, I don't know what the total numbers of embryos were, but it was staggering.
And for you, you started a whole company. I think you called it Elegance Futures.
Yes.
With you and the culls. Do you have any idea how many cattle over the years carry the Budjon JK prefix?
No idea.
But it would be hundreds and hundreds. It's not
for sure.
It's not dozens, it's hundreds.
Yes.
And Mike, we talk about it with some of our cows. One way, cows really identify themselves in this business is their ability to reproduce and massively reproduce. Think about the great cows we talk about, Mike. That's why Elegance is so popular. She's done it in every branch of her tree.
Not too many cows can be that many generations removed, and everybody still knows who Elegance is. And you can go to Japan, you can go to Australia, you can go to all these countries, and everyone knows Elegance. And they know most of the cows in this bull that we're introducing's pedigree by one name. And that's exactly what we wanted to do when we started this. Cows that perform well here in other countries, it's pretty hard to find.
And you and I are traveling globally enough now, Mike, that when you bring up these cows, people do know the cows. And Keats, you've probably bred more one-name cows. Mike and I talk about one-name cows all the time. You've got about 6 of them in this one's pedigree. And that's a tribute to your marketing, right? We talk a lot about marketing. Why do you think you were so successful marketing from this cow?
Well, obviously, Budjon gave her a good home, and couldn't have done that without that. Getting the animals ready for the shows, and it was a great partnership for sure.
Yeah. And it really propelled both of you and Tommy into the limelight of the business, right? You're both successful at the time, but moderately unknown, maybe outside the confines of Wisconsin. Yep. What did it do, one cow, for your career?
That was huge, yeah, for sure. I mean, the clippers can only take a guy so far. So
that's a good point. We've got a podcast coming out that we just did with fitters that Dairy Business is going to have out, and that's one thing they all talk about is you can only go so far. You've got to become a great cow person, a great breeder, all that to get down the road.
I think Keats was being a little bit humble there. To be honest, when a cow dominates as much as they did in a state like Wisconsin, it's pretty easy to make a cow that bred the way she did famous, and that's their great care, and the way she bred made it special.
So one of the neat things about this bull, guys, is the sire stack. When you look at it, I go through the quick list. It goes Starbuck, Broker, Limjet, Storm, Dundee, Gold Chip, Unix, Lambda. Like, how could you have any better crisscross of sires? Mike, you and I talk about getting 3 or 4 generations of bulls we like. I just listed 8 generations. What's your feeling on that?
It's back and forth with dairiness and strength. And Pete said earlier, elegance, they figured out that she likes bulls with strength. As you go through that pedigree, it's the who's who of the sires. They're bulls that have been around for years, and they continue to sire good cattle.
And past the Broker was Starbuck and Triple Thread, and some of your listeners will probably have to Google up those bulls, but yeah, they were pretty good too.
Yeah, I think Bootmark is a bull that's in there.
Yep.
I think it's 11 generations of excellent cows behind this bull, which you can almost never say in a bull in AI. Keats, I want to go back to you for a minute. We talked about it with Elegance herself, and we've talked about what the cows look like. But talk again for our breeders that are looking to use this bull. What are your favorite traits of the family, and that you think this Erica cow and her son could throw to our customers that are listening?
The tremendous balance and dairiness with some strength. I go through show strings and get down to the end, and I take a double look at one, and then somebody will walk up and say, well, of course you like her. That goes back to elegance. Well, there isn't too many that say they go back to elegance on the sign. They might have an E in their name, start with their name, and that was the case with Erica when I walked down through Mike's string. Took a second look at the one and then went back over there at the end of the string, and Mike says, well, of course you'd like her. It was Erica. So the eye appeal, I mean, you can't beat it.
Keats, you brought it up, and Mike, I'll let you kind of address Erica, because many people have told us she's the modern day elegance, maybe. I don't think, Mike, you and I have a cow that's any more popular, and we've got some cows that people love. But this fall at Expo, Erica was just, a huge, huge topic for us. Tell our listeners a little about Erica.
I had been keeping my eye open for something that went back to elegance. Don't want to admit I was on Facebook and found her, but there was a picture on Facebook of her at the farm. I said, I'm going to go look at her. And so I drove to Eastern Ontario, and I didn't want to leave the barn without her because, like Keats was saying, it's just they grab you. And when they brought her out of the block stall and walked her down the walk, and then I asked when she's due, and she was due the week of Madison. Most people would walk away from her because that's not going to work for. I couldn't. I wanted her. I didn't care if I had to wait on her to calve again. The first year we owned her, she calved the day we showed at Expo the first year. And this year she was a year fresh at Expo and stood in the top 5. We've had interns, and when you ask them, so what's your favorite cow in our barn? A lot of them will tell you it's Erica. She's so balanced. Again, she makes embryos. It's important for us to be able to market embryos, and so far she's made daughters that have done well, and kind of a total package kind of cow. But last year we showed her at spring show. She done well there, and that's when Showbox ended up buying her from the partnership I was in. Ever since then, I mean she's due back next week actually for this next year. Has done everything we've asked her to. Pretty excited to get her back out this year.
Well, it's a funny story because, Mike, the day Mike bought her, he called me and said he bought one of the nicest young cows he's gotten his hands on. And truly his goal was to find an elegance that could be a bull mother. Good friends with the other people that owned her. I am, and Mike is as well. Kingsway, the boys up there, and Terry Smigwati and his family in Ontario. And they just wouldn't let the whole cow go. And so at that point, I didn't buy in, Mike, because it would have divided the pie pretty darn small. We waited and waited and waited, and finally the time came that I was able to buy in for Showbox. And so we're pretty happy to have these bulls in our Showbox program. Keats, when you saw the cow, and I know you're busy when you're at these shows and doing a lot of things, do you remember what you liked about Erica herself?
Think pretty much everything, because they're all good cows, right? When I take the time to take a double take on one, it kind of shows my hand. Yeah, no, she grabbed me.
I'm putting a note in my phone on that, Mike. If Keats looks, then his hand is shown. That's good to know.
Yeah, it won't get you far though, because my pockets are empty, with all these out of state tuitions.
We've all been through that. Mike's headed there. Mike, tell us a little about the bull. We've talked a ton about the cow family. So Enrich-P is his name. Tell us a little about the mating of this bull on Erica.
Well, so we were looking for something a little unique, a little different to use on her. And we came up with Holy P, a bull that jury's not decided yet on him, but the bull that brings in polled and from, Luster Hannah and just we thought we would take a swing at it and ended up getting a bull that, nice plus on milk, close to 300 pounds of milk. He's plus on fat percentage. You got a real nice somatic cell count at 2.7. Extremely high tight bull. He's 2.9, crowding the 3, and over 2 points on udder composites. A very modern bred kind of bull. Generations of, and I think you said 11 or 12 generations of excellent cows behind him. So I think when you look at his linears, off the chart for udder trait, gets a little extra length to the teat, which is something that in the day's world we need. Level for rump angles. So a bull that I think is going to be a bull that we can use to make some high type animals that are not going to hurt you in his health traits and milk and fat percentage.
I think all those traits are the things that really made this bull stick out. We had quite a few sons to pick from for the cow, but we love the fact that number one, he's going to take the horns off. Number two, he's going to make them high type with great udders. And the other thing, Mike, that I love is the foot and leg situation on the bull. Really plus on foot and leg composite, just does a pretty nice job. My guess is mobility will be a specialty of this bull. When you look at Erica, she moves around like a cat, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I think with gold chip Unix and those bulls there are right up close. It's foot and leg should be excellent. And the other thing is even his strength and openness and dairy form is pretty off the chart too. And then you get to 3. I think Keith said a little bit ago on width. He's over 3.1. He's 3.16 for width, and you don't find that kind of width through many cow families anymore, and that's pretty cool trait.
And you hit just where I was going to go, Mike. For Keats, this bull's 3.16 wide, and think about how many generations back that it's gone through to get here. Back to your original elegance. Doesn't this linear kind of fit what that cow looks like?
Yeah, for sure. 8 years ago, someone was having the discussion with me, maybe not quite that far back, and telling me that, well, that's not the modern kind, that's not the modern kind. And I'm like, they don't have to be narrow to be modern. I said, if width is not cool, then I'm done with this industry, because we made the rear udders. We've got the rear udders phenomenal. They've gotten wide, but you still got to have a rump to put that udder between. And if they got a narrow, they can't walk around it. And pretty soon they're going to be doing the splits. So the rumps have got to stay there. You got to have width, and they can have the great udders.
That's right. And Mike and I talk about it all the time, because we're in an industry where we don't want bigger cows, is the word on the street. And yeah. Keats, we happen to agree with you totally. Mike and I, you'll never hear us say we don't want bigger cows. We want bigger cows. We just don't want them taller. We want them bigger from width. And again, from their heart to their rump to their udders, it all matters, doesn't it? And I think if you look at Erica from behind, that tremendous rear udder, but enough width in her rear udder, in her rump and the rump structure, Mike, to make it work, right?
Just before we started this podcast, I'd gotten a Snapchat from the girl, Chelsea, back home, and there's a view of Erica's from the front too, and she's standing there, and you could set a small square bale of hay between her legs. She is starting to spring up to calve here soon, so she was just letting me know that Erica's A-okay. We're very fortunate to have good help at home, and just before we got on, she sent that. And so 316 it's understandable that this bull would have that when you get Snapchats from mom that look like that.
And Keats, when I look at the pictures of Erica, she's got Elegance's neck, like that, that extreme style head and neck, and still enough width that she's got enough go in her to do it. Keats, one thing our listeners love to hear from master breeders like yourself and successful people, how do you use this bull? What kind of bloodlines do you use Enrich-P on?
I think your king docs and your sidekicks and tattoos and, probably the majors now.
There's dozens and dozens, hundreds and hundreds of daughters of those bulls out there that this bull can be used on. And 50% of them he's going to take the horns off from. And I guess, Mike, as you use the bull on some polled pedigrees to try to make a homozygous polled pedigree, any other direction you'd go with the bull, Mike?
With the kind of width that this bull's probably going to do, any of the Moran stuff, the A2, P2s, and the Morans can, if you're going to correct them, you'd want to widen them out some, and the A2, P2s, the lusters and stuff like it. I think the bull could work in a lot of those polled genetics.
And back to Keats's list, King Doc and Sidekick and Tattoo, they're all high style bulls that could use this tremendous width that this bull's going to throw. This has been a fun discussion. We could go on and tell stories forever. Keats, I'm going to kind of give you the chance to wrap up your thoughts on the bull and the cow family. At our advanced age, Keats, you got to reflect.
Whoa. What's this? Our stuff.
You got to reflect on what got you there in the industry. Keats, you're known throughout the world. Talk about how one cow has done so much for you.
Like I said, it was a dream come true because I knew we had a good product when we bought her. Never dreamt that it could grow to that. I ain't saying it put us on the map, but it certainly brought us way up it. It was a pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to work with her, and I'm glad to see that a cow is putting some bulls in stud, that it can have more of an impact. We had a great impact with the number of females she blessed us with, but having a bull in that could really affect the industry is pretty neat.
We're thrilled to have you on, Keats. And if we had more time, we could have had John Cull or Tom Cull. And again, you talked about your partnerships, and you were a very synergistic partnership because John and Mary and Tom and Kelly and you all brought something to the partnership, and you built a tremendous name for yourselves. And we'll get Tommy on one of these podcasts about another bull down the road, and it'll be fun. But the other thing, Keats, for our young people listening, give them a little bit of advice when you're out looking for a cow. You found this cow walking up and down a barn, and all these guys that winter clip and come clip a herd off. What should they be looking for? How do you find the next elegance?
You're getting paid by the head, but you got to slow down and take a little bit in. And also you can analyze what bulls are doing what. Over the years, there's been some great type bulls that could hurt you because they do some things wrong, but they're still, quote, the big type bulls. Yeah, and don't forget the pedigrees. Pedigrees don't lie. It'll usually come out. If you're not seeing it that day, it usually will come out yet for you.
We couldn't have scripted that any better, Mike, because you and I say that all the time, that when there's a skeleton in the pedigree, you will find it, right?
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been really fun. One of our goals at Showbox is to put name brand cows to our customers, but also put the people behind the cows in the limelight. Joel Kietzman and Tom Cull and John Cull that started Elegance Futures and found this cow. Certainly the Krulls for breeding this cow and starting the cow family. There's so many good people involved with this cow. And then you go on through to the Winwright herd that got involved, and then the Smigwatties and Kingsway. Mike, there's just every good breeder in North America has touched this pedigree in some fashion. This bull will be available from your local Select Sires representative. It's 744H018394 Enrich-P, the Holy P son out of our cover girl that was featured on many of our ads and our promotions, Smigwatties Lambda Erica. Come see her this summer and fall at our show strength. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to our next episode of this podcast series on the Dairy Voice.